of course, has always been the one set throughout the entirety of each day. So these tyres that they're using right now are the same tyres they used for qualifying heats, and now this final. All of these drivers here have had such an exciting weekend. James Anagnostiadis, who won his first race earlier on today, really strong performance from him. See how he can get on at the end of this one. It was a close finish, though. Only finished a fraction ahead of Toby Gale at the line on that one. Toby Gale then came back in qualifying Heat 2. He won that one. James Anagnostiadis dropping to second, but Anagnostiadis starts this one on pole position purely because he was on pole for qualifying. So he out-qualified Gale, which means even though they were joint on points, he starts ahead, which means he gets the 25 championship points, which I think means he now takes the lead of the championship because he was 1 point behind Casper Reipold, who was leading going into today's racing. They all make their way out onto the circuit. It's going to be a close fight. Gale and Anagnostiadis on the front row for this one, going through all the races that we have seen. We've seen some fantastic ones. Let's go through the grid then very quickly. James Anagnostiadis from Australia then starts on pole position with Toby Gale alongside. Angelina Simmons goes from row 2 with William Marshall from South Africa on row 2. Ella Hakkinen had a brilliant qualifying, starts this one on the third row of the grid with Dinia Islamov alongside. Vanessa Shilkanate and Leonidas Peruzzi round out row number 4. Keep an eye on them. Again, really good results earlier on. Connor Clancy and Casper Reipold, who has now lost his championship lead, is looking to reclaim it. What can he do from the 10th spot on the grid? Row number 6, Sofia Papaznaya and Axel Nocom round out that row. Again, keep a close eye on them, starting in the top 12. Egon Predrotti and Amelia Vishamirska round out row number 7. They will have the likes of Isaac Say and Michaela Hart on row number 8. Michaela in her first appearance in the championship this weekend. Kees Aziza and Metis Vitva go from row number 9. They will have the likes of Victoria Farfus and Sara Matsui on row number 10. An all-row lockout for the Discover Your Drive initiative drivers. Sujana Dandu and Flavio Carrier go from row 11. They will have the likes of Christian Ebras and Nilis Malik starting on row number 12, just behind them. Again, keep an eye on these two. Had some really good results. Max Murray and Katrina E., who unfortunately did retire from one of her races earlier on today, starts this one on the 26th spot of the grid. Charles Troxler and Amru Adrinzin from Peru in his first appearance here this weekend starts on the 14th row of the grid. Karine Kaur and Thavre Dudkovsky go from row 15, and they round out the top 30 on track. Marcel Sabella and Vera Jurland, also a retirement earlier on in a qualifying heat, starts this one on the 16th row of the grid. Zachariah Dole and Oscar Gallin, they lock out row number 17 as they head ahead of the field behind with row 18. Enna Pizzuto and Sanjana Dandu rounding out the entirety of the 36-kart grid. If you are watching this one, these two, I'm sure, will go wheel to wheel at some points, maybe throughout the entirety of that race. Here is Toby Gale, 6th earlier on, 2nd and 1st for him. Great results after qualifying. Didn't go fully his way, really pushed himself through the field. Great starts all the way throughout this one, and he puts himself now on the front row for this final. And obviously, from what we've seen with him, how many positions he's gained from that 6th spot of the grid, starting at P2, he should fly into the lead going in towards turn 1. We just don't know. We are going to have to wait and find out. The whistle blows. The engines fire up as the drivers now make their way on to the starting lineup. We go on board with Ella Hakkinen for this one. She's had a fantastic weekend of racing. Really curious to see what she can do now, starting this one on the inside of row number 3. Let's quickly run through the new order now, as it has slightly changed somewhat. I will read it through from my official grid in the commentary box. James Anagnostiadis and Toby Gale starting on the front row of the grid. Angelina Simmons and William Marshall going from row number 2. Ella Hakkinen and Dinia Islamov round out row 3. They did not change. Then it's Leonidas Peruzzi and Casper Reipold. They go from row 4, from Connor Clancy and Sofia Papaznaya on row 5. Axel Nocom and Egon Prodotti go from row 6, from Amelia Vishamirska and Isaac Say on row 7. Michaela Hart now starts on the inside. We'll have Kees Aziza alongside. Tess Vitva and Victoria Farfus goes from the 9th row of the grid. Sara Matsui and Sujana Dandu round out the top 20 on row 10. from Vanessa Schilkenate, who's been put to the 21st spot on the grid. We'll have Fabio Carrier alongside. The rest of the grid should be as original. Christian Ebres from Malik, then it's Murray from Katrina E, Troxler from Adriansen, Corinne Kaur from Dudkovsky, Cabela from Jurland, Delay from Gallen, Pazzuto from Sanjana Dandu on the 36th spot of the grid. Drivers out for their formation laps now. And again, tension starts to build here. Tyres have been worn down. Drivers have been worn down. It's been 2 fully busy days of racing for all of them. But it all falls down to this one here. There's a look at race control. Head of race control, Joanna Falcao, and joined by Gonzalo Planta in there, keeping an eye on all the drivers throughout this race weekend with a smattering of cameras out on circuit. I think 34 in total cameras that can see a pin drop, and then plus, of course, the broadcast cameras that you see here all get used for the race control's purpose to make sure all the racing stays nice and clean. Well, drivers make it way onto the back straight now. The last few moments to get temperature into those tyres happens. Again, it's very coarse tarmac here at Valencia, quite rough and hard on the tyre. So again, it has been a real test of a driver's skill going into this one. The final yesterday, it was Anagnosiadis who took the win from Marshall and Connor Clancy. Today, who will it be? Into the tram lines. Are we going racing? Yes, we are. We are green and racing here at Valencia in the junior final. There's carts off in the background there as the marshals quickly run to the scene. They'll clear it up quickly, but the race gets underway, and it's Anagnosiadis who gets away well. It's the number 15 that's gone off the track there on the inside. That's Nilis Malik, unfortunately, who's out of this race into the pinch point at turn number 3. Everyone gets through it cleanly, and it's all a good getaway for the rest of the field. There it is, Nilis Malik, not happy at all as he unceremoniously walks to the start-finish line marshal post. He'll be not happy starting the final like that. Anagnosiadis, though, leads the way still from Toby Gale, who's slotted into second place. Nice, clean start for them. You can see there that it's slotting into third place is Angelina Simmons in the number 23. She is pushing herself along nicely, but Gale here is right on the rear bumper and is not going to wait around at all. Straight into the race lead. No quarter given at the end of the opening lap. It's now Toby Gale who leads the way across the line. Anagnosiadis then will try and fight back here, but again, not able to find the gap down the inside in towards turn 1. Angelina Simmons is trying to close in as well, has the close company of Ella Häkkinen, but just behind in P4, who is under pressure from William Marshall, who finished on the podium yesterday. Marshall will be a threat to Ella Häkkinen as they come through, wanting another podium finish today as well as yesterday. But eyes will stay fixated on these two here. Anagnosiadis, maybe did he push those tyres too hard too early on in the weekend, or is he just biding his time here? He's just waiting for the right opportunity to go for that race lead, or he might just stay behind and push Gale along. We just don't know. Of course, if he goes for the move, Simmons Torres will be right there. Ella Häkkinen will be right there. We just don't know. Here's a look at the start then. So now what happened to Nilis Malik? This is on the 12th row of the grid. Now, there's a little bit of contact there, a little bit of jostling, and yeah, there was another kart involved. Now, Nilis Malik was racing alongside Christian Ebres, Max Murray, Katrina E, Fabio Carrier, and Vanessa Schilkenate. Was all in that area, so maybe involved in that one. This is Ella Häkkinen's view of the start of that race. The inside row, you can see, nicely timed, but you can see how committed Gale was on the outside line there through turn number 1. Brilliant to see, and holding on to that spot. This is another angle of the start. Oh, yes, you can see there the contact that happened. Again, couldn't quite see who it was with, but scary, scary moment on that start-finish straight. And, actually, maybe we can see who it was with. I think that was with the number 46. I'm not too sure, actually. Yeah, couldn't quite work out the number. There were so many carts in and around that area, but still one of them just tangling, and unfortunately for Nilis Malik, out of this final. Race is carried on, and the train still nice and close. Gale, Anagnosiadis, Simmons from Häkkinen, Peruzzi from Marshall, Islamov as we go on board with Häkkinen. Oh, very late on the brakes there. I thought that was going to be straight into the back of Angelina Simmons there, but very controlled still to get that car back in line. On board here, clipping the apexes through the infield section now, through turn 6 and 7 as they wind it up now through the revolutions, down the infield straight, in towards turn 11. Get heavy on the brakes for this one as you turn it left, and then into the quick right, back on the power, feed it through. You can get on the power really early there because the corner opens up onto the back straight as they make their way down it now, the 135-meter back straight, then into the braking zone of the final chicane. And there's going to be a change there for second place, and it is Angelina Simmons into P2 now, down the inside of James Anagnostiadis, and he is down into P3. Here comes Marshall now on Peruzzi. Peruzzi, who was up into P5, is going to lose out now and go down into P6. William Marshall back into P5. Well, Ella Hakkinen, who was just, again, sitting there in P4, she's not chopped or changed at all. She stayed there in P4. She is up a position from P5 as Anagnostiadis fights back on Angelina Simmons and sends her back down. This releases Gale now. Toby Gale has broken away from now this chasing pack. This is a dangerous spot for this group to be in because they're all thinking, right, let's scrap away between ourselves. I want to get to the front of this pack. I want to lead it. I want to try and close up. The problem is the more they do that, the more they're just going to lose out now. It's going to mean like these drivers now really need to focus on working together now to close that gap up. But the only question is that have they got the pace? Have they got the pace to do it? Looking at the sector times and the lap times, well, Toby Gale wasn't the fastest driver on circuit. That actually went to Connor Clancy, who was on the podium yesterday in this race. But he sits a little further down in the order currently in P9, so he's not gained or lost any positions. But he is the fastest driver at the moment. So he's closing in on this group here, but this group isn't closing in on Gale right now. The gap is extending to 0.6 of a second. So Gale leads the way as a change here is down the inside. Marshall gets through on Ella Hakkinen and now moves up into P4. So Marshall now in touching distance of being on that top 3 spot again. And you can see here that the gap between himself and Simmons could close down here. Simmons still looking very strong there in 3rd place, trying to close in on James Anagnostiadis. The gap, though, between himself and Gale, it just keeps extending now. It's up to 0.7 of a second out of the race, and with heavy damage to the front, that is Christian Ebras. Unfortunately, the driver of the 45 is out of this race, and that is at the final chicane there. He's sent it. He's backwards, facing backwards in the pit lane entrance. So Marshall's very quickly on the scene to clear that, because obviously you cannot block the pit lane entrance there. But yeah, for Chris Ebras, he's unfortunately out of this race, and that is a huge shame for him. No idea how that's happened, and well, he puts his hand up in the air thinking the same. What happened there? Well, race continuing, and the gap for the race lead. Toby Gale leads the way, now clear by 0.8 of a second, is continuing to open up that gap from this battle here. Anagnostiadis, Angelina Simmons, and William Marshall here on board with Ella Hakkinen. What are we going to see here? Is this the moment? No, I thought that was the moment that Marshall got through. But no, that was a bit later on. Peruzzi has now got through into P5 as well. Simmons now under pressure a little bit more from Marshall. Marshall has closed right in now on that rear bumper. Simmons needs to be careful here. Any mistake will render a move liable there. Right, this might tell us how we lost our number 45, Christian Ebras. Oh, wow, yeah, just straight off the track there, I think. Is that? Well, that is not good at all. He will not be happy with that. And, yeah, out of this race. Well, that is never a nice way of seeing a driver exit out of it, but certainly will not be pleased. We're on lap 8 now of 17, nearing that halfway point of this race, and it's still being controlled by Thailand's Toby Gale. Back on board with Ella Hakkinen, currently sitting a little further down in the order. Still in a good spot, though, in P6. You can see here the racing lines, how physical it can be, hitting those curbs on the runoff there through turn 3. Again, very bumpy, very harsh on a driver. They are not nice to run over, and of course these drivers running over them at quite a high speed as well. Through the triple left-hander then, onto the infield straight. No change. Change there though, Marshall's managed to get through, and this is how that's happened. So William Marshall is now up into the top 3. And it was through turn number 1. There you have it. And again, nicely sent and immediately communicating there with Simmons, just saying, right, come on, let's chase down Anagnostiadis. Let's close that gap up. Let's see if we can get up to P2. Marshall here, I think, will be delighted with a P2 finish in this one. Really good result yesterday again with a P2. Can he get another one today? I'm sure another podium, he'll be happy with it, but he knows he's P2 worthy. The only question is that could he possibly close up to Toby Gale? I think that's going to be a little hard to do now. Gale is clear by over a second now. And you can see here the difference between the two drivers over this weekend and over today as well. Qualifying very different for both of them. First for Anagnostiadis, 5th for Marshall, and the heats as well. 1st and 3rd, 2nd and 6th. They've been in around the same area of the track over the course of this weekend, but have not had direct contact for a lot of it. But right now, yesterday they did. Today they have as well, as he is closing this gap up now. William Marshall has closed in, and he is going for the lead here of this battle. Can he get into 2nd place of this race as we go on to lap 11 now? There's a look at the Virtual Championship. Anagnostiadis confirmation there, clear by some way now ahead of Casper Reipold. Marshall 3rd in the points, just 1 point clear of Gale, who currently leads the way here. Hakkinen still 5th in the championship ahead of Clancy. Really good results for all of the drivers and very close in the championship still. Here's a look at Gale and Anagnostiadis. This is quite a drastic difference in terms of qualifying. Gale qualifying P6 earlier on today has had to fight his way through those qualifying heats, and that was the sort of worry that maybe he's used a little bit more of his tyres compared to Anagnostiadis, because he's not had to fight as much. He's been fighting at the front. He's just been driving around, keeping consistent. He's only had a little bit of scrapping, but he's not had to work too hard, versus Gale, who really had to fight through this order a little bit to get up to these positions. Now, I'm seeing a warning flag coming up on the screen there as well, and that is for the number 20. Unfortunately, that is seeing a warning flag, and that is Emilia Wiszomirska, unfortunately, who is going to receive that warning flag. And that comes with a 5-second in-race time penalty. She will not be happy with that at all. She currently sits in 18th place as well on the grid, so it's not been the best final for her so far this weekend. Eyes back on the race leader, and Toby Gale, who leads the way now by less than a second. Anagnostiadis has started to reel in the race leader, but is that only in response to Marshall closing in? Could they potentially close up all the way? I mean, we always talk about it that, you know, 2 cars work better than 1 around a track that promotes slipstreaming, promotes a tow. But the gap, again, it stays the same. It's not coming down at a rate that I think worries Gale. I think he just needs to focus on it. This is another look at what happened to Christina Ebras, and again, yeah, just under braking. And was there contact there? I didn't see his head go backwards, but it would make sense if there was contact, because of course under braking, yeah, just not what you want to see at all. And I think that could be the reason why we see the warning flags going out in the race as well. Well, again, Anagnostiadis still holding on to 2nd place. Not able at the moment to really close in on Gale. The gaps and staying roughly the same. Battles behind, though, starting to look interesting. Hakkinen, Peruzzi, Clancy and Islamov still there. The only change on that last lap would have been Flavio Carian's Sofia Pavazniaya, who's dropped down a little bit there. Let's have a look a little further down in the order, actually. Let's have a look at some of the movers in this race. We'll keep an eye on the battle on your screen. Max Murray has gained 11 positions in this race as well. He's up to P14, having a good run. Victoria Farfus, 6 places gained, is there in P12 as well. You've got Ella Pizzuto, who's gained 10 positions in this one after starting 35th. Is now 25th in this race. It is making their way through the field. Sada Matsui, 9 places gained as well, is now in the top 10 in P10. So a lot of drivers having a very good run in this race. Keep an eye here on Leonardo Peruzzi, who's currently in P6. Currently chasing down Ella Hakkinen, back with the 2nd place battle here. Marshall reeling in Anagnostiadis. Not going for the move just yet, though. Staying behind, not close enough for an attack. I think there's been attacks further behind, though, as Hakkinen's clear. I think Peruzzi, Clancy and Islamov are starting to get involved in a little bit of a scrap now as we're on lap 15 of this race. Eyes focus on this one. Gaps back to over a second as well between Gale and Anagnostidis. So the pace, again, it's keeping consistent, but not enough to close in. It's really down to this one here, the last spots on the podium. I've got to say, is Simmons closing in on Marshall? What are the sector times looking like? Simmons through sector 1 on that last lap was actually significantly faster than William Marshall on through sector 1. Sector 2, personal best for Angelina Simmons, and that was a whole 10th faster than William Marshall. So yes, confirmation, Simmons is closing in on Marshall, and Marshall as well as closing in on Anagnostidis. So Anagnostidis really dropping back now from the race lead. So the battle for second place is on. Anagnostidis here is under threat of not actually making it onto the podium. Here he's still P2, but he's got 3rd and 4th right behind him, and Simmons now sets the fastest lap of the race. That is a driver who has looked after tyres and is now waited for the last few laps here to really close in and go for a podium finish here. Yesterday, Simmons finishing in P11. A podium today would be well received for Angelina Simmons, who started this race P3, currently P4, down 1 position at the moment, but has had a consistent weekend, constantly within the top 5. 3rd in qualifying, 5th in Heat 1, 3rd in Heat 2, and right now she's looking for another 3rd, maybe even a 2nd place. Final lap ball goes out, and Marshall piles on the pressure here to Anagnostidis, who is in 2nd place. Toby Gale is clear by a full 2nd. Anagnostidis here in 2nd place, though, is defending his spot on the podium. He won yesterday. Today is looking like it's going to be a different story, but will it be another podium for the Australian? Simmons is closing in on Marshall. If Simmons goes for the move here, Marshall and Anagnostidis could break away, but again, they go defensive. Simmons takes the optimal line. She's on the outside here. She's going to try and get the switch over. She can't get down the inside. She stays there in P4 at the moment. A podium finish for Angelina Simmons is millimeters away as they dive in towards the final chicane. There goes Gale, but around the outside, there goes Simmons. Toby Gale wins the final. He's delighted. Who's going to get on the podium, though? It is Anagnostidis and Marshall who round out the top 3. Angelina Simmons just couldn't quite get that move to work out, and she stays in P4, but Toby Gale now makes it a 4th different final winner in the junior category of this championship. That helps him out massively. It puts him 4th in the championship. He holds on to that one. It was 5th going into this weekend. So Toby Gale, now 4th in the championship, closes the gap up by just 1 point to himself and William Marshall in the standings. Toby Gale, though, here at Valencia, is absolutely on it. Anagnostidis still leads the championship. He's clear by some way ahead of Reipold. Marshall still there, 3rd, but 1 point behind now is your race winner in this one. Toby Gale takes the win ahead of James Anagnostidis and William Marshall at the end of the final. Well, the rest of the field makes their way in towards Parc Ferme. Let's have a look at the rest of the results. Simmons finishing in P4 ahead of Ella Hakkinen. Connor Clancy finishing in 6th place, 3 places gained from Pedrotti, 5 places gained in P7. Dinia Islamov from Leonidas Peruzzi. Sara Matsoi, 9 places gained to finish in P10 ahead of Victoria Farfus, 7 places gained in P11. Kesa Ziza from Kasper Reipold. Max Murray from Isaac Say. Amelia Vishamirska from Axel Nocom, Vanessa Schilkenate from Michaela Hart, who rounds out the top 19. Katrina E gains 6 places to finish in the top 20 ahead of Karia. Sujana Dandu from Dudkovsky, Pavazniaya. Pazuto, 10 positions gained from Vitva. Sanjana Dandu from Adriansen. Then it's Troxler, Kor, and then Jurland, Delay, And then the rest of the field as well. Capella from Gallon, the 34 finishers, Ebras and Nilis Malik, the two retirements in that race. Well, a superb end to their final.